Russian propaganda is still making these claims, denying that there are Ukrainian victories and so on. I mean, what's your reaction to what's gone on?
Two worlds. They believe, with some success, I'm afraid, that they can get away with it inside Russia, and to a certain extent, although this is rapidly decreasing, among useful idiots, frankly, in the West. They can also maybe get away with it in the global South, the countries who have been ambiguous on sanctions against Ukraine. That's perhaps where the real battle is. That's why they're doing this.
Well, it's really remarkable, though, the successes, seemingly, of the Ukrainian forces. 50 days since the conflict began, and they are still holding the line quite strongly. However, some people have argued that this is just a temporary break, that Russia has retreated, and they are going to come back potentially much harder very soon.
How much harder, I think, is the big issue. They certainly will come back harder. They've had really serious setbacks. I was speaking on Wednesday night with a number of informed people. We were all independently, cautiously pessimistic. Russia will be able to push Ukraine back in the Donbass. Question is, to what extent elsewhere, probably limited there. So Ukraine will survive as a nation. How hollowed out will it be?
Well, that's a really interesting point. Just in terms of the Russians' behaviour, right? Well, there was clips. Again, it's always difficult to verify various things in war, of course it is. But there were clips of audio clips put out in various news sites about the wife of one of the Russian troops there saying that he was allowed to rape the Ukrainian women and this, that and the other. We've seen all these horrific reports of specifically rape and frankly just murder a lot of the time as well, what appears to be anyway. Is it in the Russian psyche that actually Ukrainians are just like vermin? Is that something that's in their brains or not?
That would be going too far. It's right. Very, very complex. But remember, the Russian Federation is itself very much multi-ethnic. It's noticeable that many of the deaths have been of non-Slav Russians. So there isn't the brotherly nature. But remember, of course, within the United Kingdom, English Scotland passions can become deep, and we've had nothing on the scale of the horrors of the Tsarist and communist regimes. No, I think that's going too far. But I think it is a problem of disciplinary problems and essentially conscript army, the inevitability of war and poor discipline. So it's the Russian armed forces are doing an extreme version. It's not unique to them.
And what is the goal now of the Russian regime? Now that they've ramped up the propaganda and rhetoric within their own society with the so-called denazification and so on, and they've suffered all of these losses, it's not clear, really, what they're trying to achieve anymore.
I don't think they know. Certainly, nobody outside Putin's extremely narrow circle will know. I doubt even if the senior military commanders know. And as we've seen, there's been considerable dissension reported within the FSB. I suspect there's a lot of truth in that. I imagine he would now settle for the Donbass, meaning Lugansk and Donetsk regions, the so-called independent republics, and certain guarantees on NATO and an implicit recognition of Crimea, because he's set back Ukraine economically for many years. So we're now in this for the long term. This is a 20-year Marshall Plan, and he may be gambling that the West doesn't have the patience.
OK, just very lastly, headlines that came out yesterday about apparently 150 spy chiefs being in Putin's inner circle. He's got quite a large inner circle there, hasn't he? Being arrested or put under house arrest and in various different degrees of detention, including apparently a guy called Vladislav Surkov, who, according to reports anyways, invented Putinism. He's been a very close advisor to him. What do you make of that?
Well, I have particular knowledge of parts of that, because in the BBC documentary, which is now available on BBC Sounds...
we don't need to promote the ad.
No, I didn't. But the chief contributor from the Ukrainian side was the former head of the State Security Service, the SBU, Valentin Nalyvaichenko, a hugely impressive individual who did so much hard work several times in rooting out Russian influence in Ukraine. There is clearly a lot to this. I think this is something that needs to be kept up. And as you know, I've in the past, in recent broadcasts, I've referred to several Tom Clancy books. They're not novels, they're textbooks. I would urge everybody listening to try and get a download, Amazon, of the last book written in his lifetime called Command Authority. It is about Ukraine, it is about a Russian invasion. It is astonishing, and it should be regarded not as a novel, but a textbook. Keep on at this. You're on to something there.
Welcome to the GB News YouTube channel. You can watch us live 24 hours a day, catch up on your favourite shows, and join in the conversation in the comments below.
Don't forget to subscribe and you'll never miss any of our exclusive content.